Hey guys, tonight we begin with a story of faith, finance, and a betrayal so cold it would echo for centuries. The tale of the Knights Templar, their unimaginable wealth, and the king who decided to simply take it. Picture this: the first light of a Friday dawn in October 1307, creeping over the Parisian rooftops. The air is crisp, carrying the smell of wood smoke from 1,000 morning fires and the damp, earthy scent of the Seine. Somewhere, a church bell tolls the hour, its sound swallowed by the narrow, winding streets. But this isn't a normal morning. This is a morning of sealed orders, of whispered commands, and of a trap about to be sprung on the most powerful banking institution the world had ever known. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations. You are a Knight Templar, and you have just woken up to the worst day of your life. The dawn of Friday, October 13th, 1307. The date itself would become a ghost, a whisper of bad luck for centuries to come. And it starts here, with you. You blink in the weak light filtering into your sparse chamber within the Paris Temple, the Order's sprawling headquarters. It's more fortress than monastery, a city within a city, with towering walls and a keep that houses not just knights, but the entire financial nervous system of Western Europe. You stretch, your body still aching from training yesterday. The white mantle with its splayed red cross lies neatly folded. You are a monk and a warrior, a man of God and of the sword. You are part of an elite force that answers only to the Pope himself. You are untouchable. Or so you thought. The first sign that something is wrong is the sound, or rather the lack of it. The temple is usually a hive of activity by this hour. The clatter of hooves in the courtyard as messengers depart, the murmur of prayers from the chapel, the distant clink of gold being counted in the vaults below. But this morning, it's silent. An unnatural, heavy silence, like the air before a storm. You get up and move to the narrow window. The courtyard below should be bustling with sergeants and squires preparing for the day. Instead, it's filled with soldiers, royal soldiers. Their tunics bear the fleur-de-lis of King Philip IV of France. They are everywhere, their helmets glinting in the pale sun, their hands on their sword hilts. They have not come to pray. Your heart, a steady drum in your chest until now, stutters. This is impossible. The temple is sovereign ground. The king has no authority here, yet his men are swarming the place like ants on a dropped piece of fruit. You hear heavy, booted footsteps echoing in the stone corridor outside your door. There's a bang, not on your door, but on the one next to yours. A voice, sharp and official, barks a command. By order of His Majesty King Philip, you are to surrender yourself and face the charges of the Inquisition. The words don't make sense at first. Charges. The Inquisition. You are a Templar. You have taken vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. You have fought and bled for the Holy Land. Your order protects pilgrims and funds kings. This is a mistake, a terrible, terrible mistake. The footsteps stop at your door. The handle rattles, then the door swings inward, slamming against the stone wall with a crack that echoes in the small room. Two royal guards stand there, their faces hard and impersonal. Behind them stands a man in the dark robes of a Dominican friar, a scribe hovering at his elbow with a parchment and quill. The friar's eyes are cold, devoid of the spiritual warmth you'd expect from a man of God. They are the eyes of a bureaucrat of faith, an accountant of souls. He reads from a scroll. The list of charges is long, monstrous, and utterly bizarre. Denying Christ, spitting on the cross, worshipping idols in the form of a bearded head called Baphomet, engaging in obscene kisses during initiation, homosexuality, financial corruption, heresy, Each accusation is more outrageous than the last, a grotesque caricature of everything you and your brothers stand for. It's so ludicrous you almost laugh. But the guards don't laugh. The friar doesn't laugh. This is not a joke. This is a legal proceeding. This is the king's law, and it has come for you. You try to protest, to explain the sacred nature of your vows, the piety of your order. The words feel feeble in the face of such determined absurdity. The guards don't listen. They step forward, and one of them pulls your arms behind your back. You feel the rough, unyielding grip of iron manacles being clamped around your wrists. The metal is shockingly cold. This is the moment it becomes real. The moment the abstraction of charges becomes the physical reality of captivity. You are a prisoner. You are dragged from your room into the corridor. Other brothers are being similarly hauled from their chambers. You lock eyes with a grizzled veteran, a man who lost an eye at the siege of Acre. You see the same confusion, the same dawning horror in his face. This isn't an arrest. It's a coordinated military operation. The king hasn't just targeted the Paris temple. You learn later that similar scenes are playing out across the entire kingdom of France, all at the same time. Thousands of Templars, from the highest-ranking officials to the lowliest sergeants, are being seized in a single, stunningly efficient sweep. The order itself is being decapitated in one morning. As you are marched through the halls you know so well, you pass the entrance to the underground vaults. The massive iron door is wide open. Royal officials are already inside, their voices echoing with a greedy excitement as they inventory the contents. This is what it's all about. This is the heart of the matter, the treasure of the Templars. For nearly 200 years, your order has been the bank of choice for kings, nobles, and pilgrims. You invented modern finance with letters of credit that allow a pilgrim to deposit money in Paris and withdraw it in Jerusalem. You hold the crown jewels of England as collateral for a loan. You manage the personal treasury of the King of France himself. The temple is the Fort Knox of the medieval world, and King Philip IV, known as Philip the Fair for his blonde hair and not his morals, is deeply catastrophically in debt to you. He has taxed his people into poverty, devalued the currency, and still he is drowning. And you, the Templars, are his biggest creditors. You hold the promissory notes that could break his throne. As you are shoved past the vault, you catch a glimpse of chests being pried open, the flicker of candlelight on gold coins, the dull gleam of silver ingots. The king's men aren't just arresting you. They are seizing the entire financial apparatus of Europe. They are taking the money, all of it. The manacles chafe your wrists. The reality of your situation sinks in with the weight of the iron on your skin. You are not being arrested for heresy. You are being arrested for being a bank, a very, very rich bank that a bankrupt king has decided to foreclose on, permanently. The path to the dungeons is long and dark, leading down into the bowels of the city. The air grows damp and cold, smelling of stagnant water and despair. The sounds of the world above fade away, replaced by the drip of water and the distant moans of other prisoners. The final door clangs shut behind you, plunging you into a darkness so complete you can feel it. You are alone in the dark, accused of crimes you did not commit. Your life's work destroyed in a single morning. And somewhere, in the shadows of your mind, a thought begins to form. A story the old-timers would tell around the fire. A story about a curse placed upon any king who dared betray the order. You had always dismissed it as a campfire tale. But now, shivering in the blackness, you wonder. You remember the last words of your Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, a man not known for idle threats. You wonder what price a king might pay for such a betrayal, and you realize this isn't the end of the story. It's only the beginning. Continuing on from the shock of your capture, the cold of the dungeon seeps past your skin, into your bones, into your very spirit. The initial confusion has curdled into a hard, cold knot of understanding in your gut. This is not a mistake. This is a calculated, merciless plan. And you are now a piece on the king's chessboard, a piece he intends to sacrifice. The days blur into a single, endless night. Time is measured not by the sun, but by the arrival of a thin, watery gruel and the occasional change of the guard. The silence is the worst part. It's a heavy, smothering blanket, broken only by the scuttling of rats and the distant, echoing screams that sometimes filter down from the levels above. You try to pray, but the words feel hollow, stolen from you by the very accusations leveled against your faith. You are a heretic, they say, a blasphemer. The words are so absurd they circle in your mind, a dizzying, nonsensical mantra. Deny Christ? You who have faced Saracen armies under the burning Jerusalem sun. Spit on the cross, the symbol you have worn on your mantle for a decade, the symbol you were willing to die for. The cognitive dissonance is a physical pain. It's like being told the sky is green and the grass is blue and being punished for not agreeing. This, you slowly realize, is the point. The accusations are not designed to be believed. They are designed to be confessed to, because a confession, no matter how obtained, is what the king needs. It's the legal key that unlocks the treasury. It justifies the seizure. It turns theft into royal justice. And King Philip IV, known as Philip the Fair, is a man deeply in love with the appearance of justice. He wants the gold, but he also needs to look righteous while he takes it. He is a man obsessed with his own image, his own legacy. He has the face of a saint on his coins and the soul of an accountant. And his ledger, you are certain, is bleeding red. The kingdom is bankrupt, years of war with England, his own extravagant court, and a series of poor harvests have emptied the royal coffers. He has already expelled the Jews and seized their assets, but it wasn't enough. He has debased the currency, mixing cheap metals with the silver, causing inflation and riots. But it wasn't enough. The Templars are his last, largest and most tempting target. You remember the last time you saw the king's financial records. As a high-ranking brother, you were privy to such things. The crown's debt to the order was astronomical. It was a number so large it was almost abstract, a mountain of gold that could never be climbed. The king wasn't just a debtor. He was the order's prisoner, chained by his own insolvency, and the only way to break those chains was to break the bankers. So here you are, in the dark, waiting. The waiting is a form of torture in itself. Your mind races, imagining what is happening above. The Paris temple, your home, being ransacked. The meticulous records of centuries of finance, loan agreements, property deeds, letters of credit, being piled up, perhaps to be burned as evidence of your corruption. The treasure itself, the physical gold and silver, the jewels held in trust, the sacred relics, all being carted away to the Louvre under the king's seal. The greatest bank heist in history, sanctioned by the throne and blessed by a compliant church. Then the moment comes. The heavy bolt on your cell door slides back with a screech of metal that sets your teeth on edge. The door opens, and 2 guards stand there, silhouetted by the flickering torchlight from the corridor. They don't speak. They simply grab you by the arms and haul you to your feet. Your legs, stiff from disuse and cold, buckle for a moment. They half drag, half carry you out of the cell and down a long, low-ceilinged corridor. The air changes as you walk. The damp, earthy smell of the dungeon gives way to the scent of smoke and burning tallow. You are taken to a room that is noticeably warmer. A fire crackles in a hearth, but the warmth doesn't feel comforting. It feels clinical, like the heat from a blacksmith's forge. This is the interrogation chamber. It's not a dungeon cell, it's an office, a place of business. There is a table with writing materials, there are chairs, and there are tools laid out on a clean cloth on a smaller table. They are not the crude instruments of a torturer. They are precise, well-made, ropes and pulleys, wedges, thumb screws. A brazier with metal rods heating in the coals. The ordinariness of it is more terrifying than any display of bloody intent. This is a process, a system. The Inquisitor is already there, the same Dominican friar from your arrest, or perhaps a different one. They all have the same cold eyes. He is seated at the table, his hands steepled. He doesn't look at you as you are forced into a rough wooden chair opposite him. He is reading a parchment. The charges again. He finally looks up. His voice is calm, reasonable, almost bored. "Let us not waste time," he says. "The evidence against your order is overwhelming. Many of your brothers have already seen the light of God and confessed their sins. This is a lie. You are sure of it. Or is it? The seed of doubt is planted. Have others broken? Have they named you?" The Inquisitor begins to ask questions, his tone conversational at first. He asks about your initiation. Did you deny Christ? Did you spit on the cross? Did you engage in obscene kisses with your brothers? The questions are so vile, so antithetical to your lived experience, that you can only stare at him, your mouth agape. You deny everything. You speak of your vows, your piety, your service. You talk until you are hoarse. The Inquisitor listens, his expression never changing. When you are finished, he sighs, as if disappointed by a stubborn child. "A pity," he says softly. He nods to the guards. This is where the theatre ends and the work begins. They don't yell. They don't curse. They are methodical, efficient. They tie your hands and attach them to the pulley system. The ropes tighten, and your arms are wrenched upwards behind your back. The pain is immediate and exquisite, a white-hot fire in your shoulders. You grit your teeth, trying not to cry out. The Inquisitor leans forward. "Let us try again. The initiation. Tell me about the idol, the head of Baphomet." You shake your head, tears of pain and frustration welling in your eyes. There is no idol. There is no Baphomet. It is a fiction, a nightmare dreamed up in a king's court. The guards add more weight. The tendons in your shoulders feel like they are about to snap. The world narrows to this single blinding point of agony. This is the king's true genius. He isn't using brute force alone. He is using the machinery of faith and law. The Inquisitors are his technicians, men who believe they are saving your soul even as they break your body. A confession given under torture is still a confession in the eyes of God and the court. It is legal tender, and the king needs a lot of it. You hold out for what feels like an eternity, but time has lost all meaning. The pain becomes your entire universe. The promises start to sound reasonable. Just say the words. Admit to the denial of Christ. It's just a formality. Everyone is doing it. You can always recant later. The thought is a treacherous, seductive whisper in the roaring storm of pain. And in that moment, you understand the true curse. It isn't some magical spell on the gold. The curse is this. The curse is the destruction of truth. The curse is making honorable men liars, turning faith into farce, and reducing a brotherhood of warriors into a collection of broken men confessing to fantasies. The curse is the ledger, and the king who would burn the world to balance it. From the private, methodical agony of the interrogation chamber, the story now explodes into the public square. The confessions, wrung from broken men in dark rooms, must now be sanctified in the open air, made real by the spectacle of final judgment. The process has ground on for years, 7 long years of imprisonment, of show trials, of psychological pressure and physical torment. But all kings, even bankrupt ones, eventually grow impatient. The air on the Île aux Juifs, a small island in the Seine, is thick and cold this March morning in 1314. A crowd has gathered, their breath misting in the dawn light. There's a carnival atmosphere, the grim fascination of the populace for a state-sanctioned execution. Vendors move through the throng, selling stale bread and dried fruit. Children sit on their fathers' shoulders, trying to see over the heads of the adults. At the center of it all, a large platform has been erected. and on that platform a pyre of wood and straw stands ready, a stark skeletal structure against the grey sky. This is the end of the road, for you and for the entire order of the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon. You stand on the platform, your hands bound, alongside your Grand Master Jacques de Molay and the preceptor of Normandy, Geoffroy de Charnay. You are all that remains of the leadership, the final symbols of a broken power. The years in prison have taken their toll. Your body is a map of pains, old and new. Your once white mantle is now a filthy, tattered rag. But something has changed in the last few days. A final, defiant spark has been struck. After 7 years of captivity, after confessing under torture to the ridiculous charges, Jacques de Molay has done the unthinkable. He has recanted. He has stood before the Papal Commission and publicly declared that the order was innocent, that the confessions were lies extracted by pain and fear. It was an act of breathtaking courage, or perhaps utter madness. It has signed his death warrant, and yours along with it. The king cannot allow the truth to be spoken aloud. The entire fragile edifice of his justification, the heresy, the blasphemy, the corruption, crumbles if the main accuser takes it all back. So, the punishment for recanting a false confession is death. The irony is so bitter you could taste it on your tongue if it weren't so dry with fear. You look at the Grand Master. Jacques de Molay is an old man, well into his 70s. He has been a warrior, a diplomat, the leader of thousands of men. Now he stands stoically, his back straight, his eyes fixed on the middle distance. He does not look at the king's officials on their grandstand. He does not look at the jeering crowd. He seems to be looking at something else entirely, something only he can see. Perhaps he is looking back at 2 centuries of history, at the battles fought, the pilgrims saved, the treasures guarded. Or perhaps he is looking forward. A priest steps forward to offer final absolution on the condition that the Grand Master reaffirm his original confession. Molay turns his head slowly. His voice, when it comes, is raspy from disuse and the damp of the dungeon. But it carries across the silent island. He refuses. He maintains the order's innocence and his own. He declares himself guilty only of one thing, of betraying his order by confessing to lies in order to end his torment. This is it. There is no going back. The official reads the sentence, "Death by fire." The crowd murmurs, a wave of excited horror. You are pushed towards the pyre and bound to a stout post, the rough wood scratching your back through the thin tunic. Straw is piled around your feet. The Grand Master is bound to the post next to you. He turns his head and looks at you. There is no fear in his eyes, only a profound, weary resolve. "Stay strong, brother," he whispers, his voice barely audible. "God knows the truth." Then he looks away, towards the palace where the king resides, and he raises his voice. It is no longer the voice of a broken prisoner. It is the voice of a Grand Master, a voice that once commanded armies. It rings out, clear and sharp, cutting through the morning air. "I summon you, Pope Clement, and you, King Philip, to appear before the tribunal of God before this year is out, to answer for the blood of the innocent." The words hang in the air, stark and terrible. A curse, a formal public malediction from a man moments from death. The crowd gasps. The officials on the grandstand shift uncomfortably. It is one thing to execute a heretic. It is another to execute a man who calls down the judgment of heaven upon the most powerful men in Christendom. The order is given. A torch is applied to the straw at the base of the pyre. There is a crackle, then a whoosh as the dry tinder ignites. The heat is instantaneous and overwhelming. The smoke, thick and black, billows up, stinging your eyes and choking your lungs. But as the flames climb higher, engulfing the Grand Master, witnesses will later swear to something strange, something unnatural. They will say that Jacques de Molay did not scream. He did not cry out in agony. He prayed loudly and fervently until the very end. And they will say that the flames, as they consumed him, seemed to part around his body, refusing to touch his face, as if even the fire itself respected the man and his curse. The heat becomes unbearable. The pain is beyond anything the torture chamber could devise. It is a cleansing, all-consuming fire. As the world dissolves into a roaring orange hell, the Grand Master's last words echo in your mind, the tribunal of God. Before the year is out, the curse is now part of the story, woven into the fabric of history itself. It is no longer just a campfire tale. It is a promise spoken into the smoke and rising to the heavens. The king, watching from the safety and comfort of his palace, will soon hear of the curse. He will scoff, of course. He is a practical man, a man of ledgers and laws. He has the Templars' gold now. He has dissolved the order. He has won. What is the curse of a dead man against the power of a living king? He will count his new wealth. He will stroll through his gardens. He will feel the satisfaction of a problem finally solved. But somewhere, in the back of his mind, a tiny, cold seed of doubt will be planted. The words will linger. Before the year is out, and as the weeks and months pass, that seed will begin to grow. The curse is now in the world. It is a debt that has come due. And King Philip the Fair is about to discover that some ledgers cannot be balanced with gold alone. The smoke from the Grand Master's pyre dissipates, carried away on the wind over the Seine. But the words he spoke hang in the air of France, heavier than any fog. They are a seed planted in the collective mind of a kingdom, a whisper that will not be silenced. For King Philip, the business of kingship continues. The Templar gold is now his gold. The ledgers are, for the first time in his reign, gloriously, triumphantly in the black. But a curse, once uttered, becomes its own kind of living thing. The king returns to the business of rule from his palace, the Louvre a fortress of newfound security. He walks through halls that feel more solid, more his, now that the shadow of debt has been lifted. He orders new tapestries. He plans military campaigns that are no longer fantasies. He holds council with his advisors, and the talk is of legacy, of a dynasty that will rule France for 1,000 years. The name Philip the Fair will be remembered not for financial desperation, but for strength and piety. He has purified his kingdom after all. He has cleansed it of heretics. This is the story he tells himself, the story he has his scribes write into the official chronicles. But the curse is a ghost in the machine of his reign. It begins subtly, as these things often do. It starts with a dream. The king is not a man prone to fanciful nightmares, but now, in the deep of night, he jolts awake, his heart hammering against his ribs. The dream is always the same. He is standing in the vault of the Paris temple, but the chests are empty. Instead of gold, they are filled with ash. And from the ash rises the figure of Jacques de Molay, his skin blackened, his eyes not accusing but pitying. The king dismisses it. Too much rich food, the stress of kingship. He is a rational man in an age of faith, a contradiction that has always served him well. Then the accidents begin. A month after the execution, the king is hunting in the forest of Fontainebleau. It is a routine hunt, a boar drive. The king is an experienced hunter, but on this day his horse, the finest and most steady in the royal stables, startles at nothing. It rears, throwing the king from the saddle. He falls not onto soft earth, but against the gnarled root of an ancient oak. The crack of a rib is loud in the sudden silence of the forest. His courtiers rush to him, their faces pale with panic. It is a simple, stupid accident. But the timing feels pointed. As he is carried back to the palace on a litter, every jolt sending a spike of pain through his side, the words echo in his mind. Before the year is out, the injury does not heal cleanly. It festers. A fever takes hold, the kind that makes a man sweat and shiver in turns, that blurs the line between waking and nightmare. The royal physicians bleed him, apply poultices of strange herbs, and murmur incantations. They are confused. This is a simple broken bone. It should not provoke such a violent response from the royal humours. The king's strong constitution, the very thing that has seen him through wars and crises, seems to have abandoned him. He lies in his great bed, the silken sheets clinging unpleasantly to his damp skin. The room is thick with the smell of illness and the cloying scent of medicinal incense. He can hear the whispers just outside his door. The court is a breeding ground for gossip, and the gossip has a new favorite subject, the Templar curse. They speak of it in hushed tones, of how the Grand Master's invocation of God's tribunal is now collecting its due. The king tries to rally. He forces himself to sit up, to review documents, to show his court that he is still in command. But his hand shakes as he holds the parchment. The letters swim before his eyes. The numbers in the Treasury reports, those beautiful, reassuring numbers, now seem meaningless. What good is all the gold in Christendom if your body is turning against you? Meanwhile, the treasure itself sits in the vaults below, but it is quiet. The king had expected a feeling of power, of security from its presence. Instead, it feels inert, like a great dead weight. The officials tasked with counting and recounting it report a strange atmosphere in the vaults, a chill that the braziers cannot dispel, a sense of being watched. Some refuse to go down alone. The gold is there, physically present, but it gives no warmth. It fuels no prosperity. The kingdom, miraculously flush with cash, seems to stagnate. Projects are delayed. Trade feels sluggish. It is as if the wealth is tainted, its vital energy extinguished the moment it was stolen. The king's condition worsens as the spring of 1314 turns to summer. The fever does not break. The pain from his injury becomes a constant, grinding companion. His physicians are at a loss. They have tried everything. They speak of bad air, of an imbalance of the bile. They do not speak of curses, not to his face, but he sees the fear in their eyes. He is dying, and he knows it. The most powerful man in Europe, who reshaped the papacy to his will and destroyed the most powerful military order in the world, is being brought low not by an army, but by a broken rib and a fever. The irony is a torture far more exquisite than any the Inquisition could devise. On a stiflingly hot day in August, the king takes a turn for the worse. The fever rages, pulling him in and out of consciousness. In his lucid moments, he stares at the crucifix on the wall but finds no comfort. He sees only another man, bound to wood, executed by the state. The line between piety and murder has become terrifyingly thin. His family gathers around his bed, his sons, his wife. Their faces are masks of grief and anxiety. The succession is secure, but the kingdom feels precarious. The curse is claiming its primary target. Philip IV, King of France Philip the Fair, dies on November 29th, 1314. The cause is listed as a stroke, perhaps brought on by the relentless fever. But everyone knows the true cause. The timeline is checked, and a collective shiver runs through the court. It has been less than a year since Jacques de Molay was burned. The Grand Master's curse has been fulfilled with chilling, mathematical precision. The king who wanted it all died with nothing, his body broken, his legacy forever stained by the smoke of that Parisian pyre. The gold remained, but the king was gone. The first payment on the cursed ledger had been collected in full. With the king dead, and his body laid to rest in the royal crypt at Saint-Denis, a silence falls over France, a silence that is not peaceful, but waiting. The throne, now drenched in Templar gold and Templar blood, passes to his son, Louis XVI. He is young, he is healthy, and he is entirely unaware that he has just inherited the most toxic asset in Christendom, a crown tied to a curse. The ledger of blood is not yet balanced. The new king, Louis, known as Louis the Quarrelsome, does not feel cursed. He feels powerful, the treasury is full. The rebellious Templars are gone, the kingdom is his to command. He moves into the royal apartments, he sits on the same throne, he even uses the same golden chalice his father drank from. There is no shudder of dread, no cold premonition. Why would there be? He is not the one who gave the orders. He is not the one who lit the pyre. He is just the beneficiary. But a curse, as we are learning, is not a simple thing of personal vengeance. It is a stain, a rot that seeps into the very foundations of a house. And the house of Capet, for all its power and glory, is now a house built on a grave. The gold is still there, of course. It sits in the vaults, a magnificent, silent hoard. But it does nothing. Louis XI finds that for all this apparent wealth, the kingdom is strangely brittle. The weather turns against France. The summer after his father's death is abnormally cold and wet. The harvests fail. Grain prices skyrocket. The people who were taxed into poverty by Philip now face starvation. They call it the Great Famine. They murmur that it is a judgment from God. Louis, trying to prove his worth, engages in foreign wars and domestic squabbles. He is not a bad king, necessarily, just an ordinary one, trying to manage an extraordinary situation. But the curse does not demand a bad king. It merely demands a king of the blood. It is patient. It waits for the perfect moment. For Louis, that moment comes during a game. He is young and vigorous, and after a tense council meeting, he decides to blow off steam with a game of jeu de paume, an early, brutal version of tennis. He plays hard, as he always does, sweating in the indoor court, the sound of the balls slamming against the walls, echoing like a heartbeat. He drinks copiously of cold water and wine to slake his thirst. It is a perfectly normal series of events. But that night, he falls ill. A chill, they say at first, then a fever, then a cough that racks his entire body. The physicians are called. They see the same pattern they saw with his father, a strong man, suddenly and inexplicably laid low. The treatments are the same, bleeding, poultices, prayers. They have no effect. The king weakens by the hour. The court holds its breath. It has only been a year since Philip the Fair died. The curse of the Templars is on everyone's lips, but no one dares speak it above a whisper in the shadowy corridors of the palace. Louis XI, King of France, dies in June 1316 after a reign of just 18 months. The official cause is pneumonia, or perhaps pleurisy. The unofficial cause is the curse. The throne, so recently stable, is now terrifyingly vacant, and the gold remains untouched, a passive witness to another royal death. The crown passes not to Louis's unborn child, but to his brother Philip the Five, known as the Tall. He is a different sort of man, more cautious, more administrative. He sees the pattern. He must see it. His father died suddenly. His brother died suddenly. He is now the third man to wear a crown that seems to be burning its wearers. He takes the throne with a sense of grim determination, not joy. He is a problem solver, and he has a massive problem to solve, a cursed legacy. He tries to outsmart it. He doesn't engage in grand, risky military campaigns. He focuses on internal reform, on law, on stabilizing the kingdom. He is a competent, careful king. For a few years it seems to work. The curse, perhaps, is satisfied. The famine recedes. The kingdom finds a fragile equilibrium. Philip might have even allowed himself to believe he had broken the cycle, but the curse was only biding its time, waiting for the moment of his greatest security. In 1321, a rumor spreads like wildfire through France. A conspiracy of lepers and Jews, it is said, has poisoned the wells. It is a classic paranoid fantasy of the Middle Ages, but it takes root in the terrified populace. King Philip, the careful administrator, acts decisively to crush this imagined threat. It is during this period of heightened tension and fear, with the kingdom once again in the grip of a phantom, that the curse strikes. It does not come as a dramatic fever or a hunting accident. It comes as a slow, wasting illness. The details are murky, lost to time, but the outcome is crystal clear. Philip V, the tall, the cautious, the reformer, dies in January 1322 after a reign of 6 years. He leaves no surviving male heir. The gold again did nothing to save him. The throne, now seeming less like a seat of power and more like a target, passes to the last of Philip the Fair's sons, Charles IV. He is the third brother to inherit in less than a decade. By now, the pattern is impossible to ignore. The chroniclers write of it openly. The court lives in a state of low-grade terror. Charles is known as Charles the Fair, inheriting his father's looks, but also, it seems, his fate. His reign is the shortest of all. He becomes king in 1322. He spends his time negotiating with England, dealing with more rebellions, trying to hold the fractured kingdom together. He is a king running on a sinking ship. In 1328, he falls ill. The sickness is swift and merciless. Charles IV, the last direct male heir of Philip the Fair, dies in February 1328. He too leaves no son. The House of Capet, a dynasty that had ruled France for over 300 years, is extinguished. In the span of just 14 years, a king and his 3 sons, Louis X, Philip V, and Charles IV, have all died, one after the other, without leaving a single male heir to continue the direct line. The throne passes to a cousin, Philip of Valois, founding a new dynasty. The Capetian line, the line of Philip the Fair, is gone, wiped out. The curse of Jacques de Molay had been fulfilled with a thoroughness that was almost biblical. The king was gone. His sons were gone. His direct lineage was erased from the earth. The tribunal of God had delivered its verdict. And through it all, in the vaults below, the Templar gold sat, cold, heavy, and utterly useless. It had brought the king nothing but ruin. It had secured no legacy. It had only financed a curse. With the Capetian line extinguished, and the throne now occupied by a new dynasty, the physical gold seized from the Paris temple becomes a phantom. It is no longer a tangible, countable hoard in a royal vault, but a ghost that flits through the corridors of power, through battlefields, and most potently, through the human imagination. The curse, having consumed the royal house that spawned it, now attaches itself to the treasure itself, ensuring its story would never truly end. The official ledgers of the new King Philip VI of Valois show a confusing picture. Some of the Templar wealth was indeed absorbed into the crown's accounts. It paid for soldiers, for castles, for the trappings of a new regime trying to establish its legitimacy, but the amounts never quite add up. The legendary, almost mythical wealth of the Templars, the gold coins from 100 kingdoms, the uncut gems from the Orient, the sacred relics, seems to dwarf the mundane sums now recorded by royal accountants. So where did it go? The question spawns 1,000 whispers, 1,000 theories, each more tantalizing than the last. Some say loyal Templar sergeants, forewarned of the king's betrayal, smuggled the true core of the treasure out of the Paris temple in the dead of night, loading it onto wagons disguised as hay carts, or onto barges that slipped silently down the Seine. The destination? Anywhere but France. Perhaps to Scotland, where the excommunicated King Robert the Bruce offered sanctuary. Perhaps deep into the Swiss Alps, into caverns that would become the secret vaults of a new banking tradition. Perhaps onto ships that sailed into the Atlantic mists, never to be seen again. This is the treasure that becomes a legend, the one that mapmakers would hint at with cryptic symbols, and that adventurers would chase for centuries. But then there is the other, darker theory. What if the king did get most of it? What if the chests of gold and jewels were indeed transported to the Louvre? Then the curse did not just work through sudden death and failed lineages, it worked through bad luck. The gold becomes a financial poison. King Philip VI, now in possession of this tainted wealth, promptly plunges France into the 100 Years' War with England. It is a conflict of unprecedented cost and carnage, a bottomless pit for men and money. The Templar gold, instead of securing a lasting peace, finances a century of bloodshed. It pays for the arrows that fall at Crécy, for the armor worn at Poitiers. Every coin spent seems to buy only more misery, as if the metal itself carries the anguish of the men who were tortured and burned for it. The treasure becomes a catalyst for destruction, not a tool for building. And then there are the individuals who try to claim a piece of it. Nobles who receive a grant of former Templar land suddenly find their crops failing, their sons dying in bizarre hunting accidents, their family names fading into obscurity. A merchant who buys a casket of Templar silver at a royal auction loses his entire fleet in a storm. The stories are anecdotal, of course. Coincidences, surely. But they are told and retold, each telling adding another layer of patina to the myth of the curse. The treasure is no longer just gold. It is a narrative device, an explanation for misfortune in a world where God and the devil are very real forces. The physical reality of the treasure dissolves, but its spectral presence grows stronger. It appears in folklore. In a village in the French countryside, a story circulates about a ghostly procession of knights in white mantles, guarding a chest that glows with an unearthly light, forever marching on the anniversary of the Grand Master's execution. They are not restful spirits. They are guardians, ensuring the treasure is never truly possessed by anyone ever again. The curse achieves a kind of immortality through these stories. It no longer needs the original gold to exist. The idea of the cursed Templar treasure is enough. It fuels speculation that follows the arc of history itself. Did the surviving Templars take it to the New World, burying it in Oak Island's money pit? Was it used to fund secret societies like the Freemasons, weaving the curse into the very fabric of modern Western esotericism? Every few decades, a new claimant emerges, a new map is discovered, a new excavation begins, and without fail, these quests end in failure or tragedy or farce. The treasure, if it even exists in a physical form, seems to recede just as its seekers get close, like a mirage in the desert. It is the curse's final, most brilliant trick. It has transformed solid gold into a ghost story. It has made the treasure infinitely more valuable as a legend than it ever was as currency, and in doing so has made it utterly unspendable, utterly unownable. The Templars in the end have the last laugh. Their wealth was never truly in the gold. It was in their network, their trust, their system of credit. The king seized the metal but destroyed the system, and in doing so, he gained nothing of real value. He traded a functioning, sophisticated financial engine for a dead, heavy and cursed relic. The ghost of the treasure ensures that the name of the Templars will never be forgotten, while the name of the king who destroyed them is remembered chiefly for his avarice and his folly. The gold is gone, but the curse is forever. The ghost of the treasure ensured the story would never die, but in the modern world, the curse has evolved. It no longer needs to break royal lineages or sink ships. It has found a new, more insidious power, the power to captivate, to obsess, to turn rational minds into vessels for ancient whispers. The curse is no longer just a historical footnote. It is a cultural virus, and we are all susceptible. Walk through any bookstore today, and you'll find it. Whole sections dedicated to the Templars, their gold, their secrets. The curse has become a brand, a franchise. It fuels billion-dollar industries in books, video games, and blockbuster films. The images are everywhere. The splayed red cross on a white mantle, the cryptic maps, the promise of a truth hidden just beneath the surface of recorded history. We devour these stories, sitting in our well-lit homes, scrolling on our phones, never realizing that we are participating in the curse's final form. It has traded physical manifestation for psychological possession. It makes us want the mystery more than we could ever want the gold. And in wanting it, we keep the Templars alive and the king's betrayal eternally present. The curse's greatest trick was making its story unforgettable. But where does fact end and the seductive, lucrative fiction begin? The lines blur in the shadowy world of secret societies. Organizations like the Freemasons incorporate Templar symbolism. The two pillars, the all-seeing eye, the aprons reminiscent of a mason's uniform, or perhaps a knight's tunic. They speak of lost knowledge, of a lineage of guardianship that stretches back through time. Are they the spiritual heirs of the scattered Templars, preserving their esoteric wisdom? Or are they simply wearing the costume of a dead order, captivated by the same story that captivates us? The curse doesn't care. It only requires that the name be spoken, that the symbol be recognized. Every time a lodge meets, every time a degree is conferred, the ghost of Jacques de Molay gets a little stronger. Then there are the hunters, the modern-day adventurers who trade swords for satellite imagery and shovels for ground-penetrating radar. They flock to places like Oak Island in Nova Scotia, a patch of land that has consumed fortunes, and lives in a quest for a treasure that may only exist as a dream. The island itself seems cursed. The more they dig, the more the earth fights back. Tunnels flood, equipment fails. Theories spiral into ever more complex and outlandish constellations. Is the Money Pit a Templar vault, a repository for the Holy Grail? The Ark of the Covenant? It doesn't matter. The pursuit is the point. The curse feeds on the pursuit. It offers just enough tantalizing clues. A carved stone with strange symbols, a piece of ancient chain, a sliver of parchment, to keep the hope alive, to keep the money flowing into excavations that never ever yield the final answer. The treasure is the carrot, and the curse is the stick, and the hunters are the donkeys, forever walking in a circle. For them, the curse is financial ruin and broken dreams. But the curse has also seeped into our collective subconscious in a stranger way. It has become a default explanation for any historical misfortune, a convenient, dramatic shorthand. A financial crash must be the result of a cursed bloodline tied to ancient gold, a political dynasty falling from grace. Clearly they tampered with forces they didn't understand. The specific targeted vengeance against the House of Capet has been diluted into a general principle of cosmic payback, a ready-made narrative for a world that often feels random and chaotic. We want to believe that actions have consequences, that betrayal on a grand scale cannot go unpunished. Even if it takes 7 centuries, the curse comforts us with its moral arithmetic. And what of the actual physical gold? If any of it still exists in a measurable form, it is likely melted down, recast, its origin lost. A gold coin from the Paris Temple could be part of a wedding ring on someone's finger. A silver ingot could be the filament in a supercomputer. The treasure is atomized, scattered across the globe, its curse diluted into the very bloodstream of global commerce. Perhaps that was the only way to break its power, to dissolve it so completely that it could no longer be identified, no longer be desired as a single cursed hoard. But the legend refuses to be dissolved. It is too good a story. It has all the elements: faith, power, betrayal, vengeance, and a mystery that remains defiantly unsolved. The curse no longer needs the gold. It has us. We are the carriers now. We tell the story to our friends, we watch the documentaries, we read the novels, we click on the articles. With every click, with every shared post, we breathe new life into the curse. We ensure that Philip the Fair is remembered not as a great king, but as an avaricious betrayer. We ensure that the Templars are remembered not as failed bankers, but as tragic heroes and keepers of secrets. The tribunal of God that Jacques de Molay invoked is now the court of public opinion, and it has been in session for 700 years. The verdict is eternal. The king is forever guilty. The Templars are forever wronged. And the gold is forever lost. And in being forever lost, it is forever sought. And so the curse wins. It has achieved immortality. It has outlived kingdoms, outlived dynasties, outlived the very metal it was supposedly attached to. It is a story that refuses to die. And as long as we keep telling it, as long as that tiny thrilling shiver runs down your spine at the words Templar gold, then Jacques de Molay is still speaking his curse, still echoing, and his order has in the most unexpected way finally won. From the abstract world of stories and symbols, the curse now coils back into the physical, attaching itself not to chests of gold, but to objects, to places, to the very soil the Templars once walked. If the treasure is a ghost, then these are its anchors to our world, tangible, visitable, and deeply unsettlingly charged. The curse becomes a localized phenomenon, a bad signal in specific coordinates on the map. Consider the Chinon parchment. It's not a jeweled cross or a golden chalice. It's a document discovered centuries later, hidden in the Vatican's secret archives, a piece of vellum with scribbled ink. It contains the absolution granted to the Templars by Pope Clement V himself, before he capitulated to Philip's pressure. It is proof of their innocence, a truth that was deliberately buried. To hold it, even to look at a digital scan of it, is to feel the weight of that suppressed truth. The parchment is a silent scream from the past. Researchers who study it too closely report strange occurrences. Unexplained cold drafts in climate-controlled rooms, the feeling of being watched from an empty corner. The document seems to repel scrutiny, as if the curse actively works to keep its final vindication just out of reach, preserving the dramatic tension of the betrayal. It is a relic of a broken promise, and it carries the chill of that betrayal within its fibrous skin. Then there are the places. The Paris temple is gone, demolished by Napoleon, but its memory is a stain on the Parisian landscape. The site, now a prosperous square, feels odd. Tourists walk over it unaware, but sensitive souls, or those who know the history, speak of a persistent low-grade melancholy that hangs in the air, a psychic residue of that Friday the 13th dawn. It's a place that never truly rested, its foundations soaked in the shock of that morning's violence, but the haunting is more potent elsewhere. Take the village of Rennes-le-Château in the French Pyrenees, a sleepy, sun-baked place that became the epicenter of modern Templar conspiracy theories. In the late 19th century, a penniless priest named Béranger Saunière suddenly, mysteriously became immensely wealthy. He restored the local church with bizarre, occult-looking decorations and built a grand villa, all with no explainable income. The theory? He discovered a hidden cache of Templar documents, or perhaps even a sliver of their treasure, stashed in the Visigothic crypts beneath his church. The curse here is one of obsession. Saunière's life ended in mystery and alleged spiritual torment. His story, in turn, has obsessed thousands. The village is a pilgrimage site for treasure hunters, mystics, and conspiracy theorists. They pick over the landscape, scouring every stone for a clue. They have turned a quiet village into a theater for a modern-day Grail quest, all fueled by the whisper of Templar gold. The curse doesn't kill them. It merely empties their wallets and fills their minds with unverifiable wonders. It's a parasitic symbiosis, where the seekers feed the legend, and the legend, in return, gives them a purpose, however elusive. Then there are the objects that purportedly survived. Not the gold, but the sacred, the strange. The most famous is the head of Baphomet, the very idol the Templars were accused of worshipping. Did it exist? Almost certainly not, as the Inquisition described. But the idea of it is a curse in itself. Any strange, ancient artifact found in a museum basement or a private collection, a carved stone head, a weathered statue, is instantly scrutinized for a connection. Is this it? Is this the proof? The curse creates a phantom object that we project onto every unexplained relic, forever contaminating archaeological objectivity with the thrill of the taboo. And what of the personal effects? A Templar's sword, dug up in a forgotten field. A signet ring from a fallen knight. These objects, if they are genuine, do not feel heroic. They feel sad. They are artifacts of an interrupted life, a calling violently severed. To hold one is to feel not power but profound loss. They are cold to the touch no matter the room's temperature. They seem to absorb the light around them. Collectors who specialize in such items often speak of a streak of bad luck that follows their acquisition, financial reversals, failing health, a slow unraveling of personal relationships. They call it coincidence, but they also quietly sell the items again, passing the bad luck to the next curious, wealthy soul. The curse becomes a game of hot potato with history's most tragic souvenirs. Finally, there is the land itself, the preceptories, the farms, the vast estates owned by the order across Europe. Many of these places to this day are considered unlucky. Local folklore is rich with tales. A field in England that never yields a good crop, no matter how it's fertilized, is said to be built on a Templar barn, whose contents were seized by the crown. A grey lady, who haunts a Scottish manor, forever searching for her husband. A Templar who never returned from France. A sense of unease in a Portuguese forest that was once a Templar stronghold. These are the subtle, persistent tendrils of the curse. It has seeped into the geology. It's in the water table. It's in the stories grandparents tell to children, ensuring that the memory of the wrong knights is passed down, not through history books, but through the shiver that runs down your spine when you walk home alone on a dark night, past the old, crumbling wall that was once part of their domain. The curse is no longer a single event. It is an ecosystem of unease. It lives in the forgotten document, the obsessed-over village, the melancholic artifact and the haunted field. It has become a part of the landscape, a whisper in the wind, a permanent fixture in the shadowy corners of the world. The gold is gone, but the places remember. The objects remember, and they will not let us forget. From the haunted relics and obsessed landscapes, we arrive at the final chilling balance sheet. 7 centuries have passed. The pyre ashes have long since scattered, the royal bones have turned to dust, and yet the ledger remains open. The curse demands a final accounting, not of gold or blood, but of meaning. What was truly won? What was truly lost? The numbers, when you finally run them, tell a terrifying story. Let's start with the king's side of the ledger. Asset. A massive, immediate injection of liquid wealth. The Templar gold filled his coffers, erased his debts, and gave him the appearance of supreme financial power. Liability, everything else. The cost of the betrayal was astronomical. First, there was the direct operational cost, paying the soldiers who made the arrests, the inquisitors who conducted the trials, the officials who managed the seized properties. Then there was the opportunity cost. By destroying his primary banking system, Philip shattered the very machinery of international finance that could have made his kingdom truly prosperous in the long term. He traded a functioning, sophisticated economic network for a dead pile of metal. Then there were the intangible costs, the stain on his reputation forever, the spiritual cost of condemning hundreds of men to torture and death based on fabricated evidence, the political cost of alienating the papacy, even one he controlled. And finally, the biological cost, his own life cut short in agony, and the complete extinction of his direct male line within 14 years. If you were to assign a monetary value to his dynasty, his honor, and his soul, the Templar gold wouldn't even cover the interest. The king didn't just fail to profit, he went spiritually and genetically bankrupt. Now let's look at the Templars' side. Asset. A powerful, multinational organization with vast wealth and influence, answerable only to the Pope. Liability. The jealousy of a bankrupt king and a web of lies strong enough to ensnare them. Their material assets were seized, their order dissolved, their brothers killed. By any contemporary measure, they lost everything. But then there are the intangible assets they gained through their destruction. They gained martyrdom, they gained a mystery, they gained a story so powerful it would outlive empires. Their brand, if you will, became immortal. The splayed Red Cross is more recognizable today than the fleur-de-lis of the French monarchy that destroyed them. Their name evokes mystery, honor, and tragedy, while Philip's name evokes avarice and treachery. In the court of history, the Templars won a decisive, if posthumous, victory. The final, chilling entry in the ledger is the treasure itself. Its value is impossible to calculate because it no longer exists as a single entity. Its material worth was spent, melted, scattered, but its legendary worth is infinite. It is the MacGuffin that has driven centuries of speculation, the engine of a multi-billion-dollar industry of books, games, and films. The curse ensured that the treasure would be worth infinitely more as a ghost than it ever was as gold. In a bizarre cosmic twist, the curse created value rather than destroying it. It transformed base metal into the gold of narrative. So who won? In the short term, the king. He got the money. He died thinking he had won. In the medium term, nobody. The kingdom was plunged into a century of war. The royal line died out, and the treasure brought no one any lasting benefit. But in the long term, the truly long term, the scale of centuries, the Templars won. Not the organization, but the idea of the Templars. The story won. The curse won. Because the curse was never about supernatural vengeance. It was about narrative justice. It was about ensuring that the story would be told forever in a way that condemned the betrayer and sanctified the betrayed. Jacques de Molay's curse was the most brilliant public relations move in history. He couldn't save his order, but he could forever define the terms of their destruction. He framed the story. He cast Philip as the villain and the Templars as the tragic heroes. And we, 700 years later, are still performing that story, still upholding that judgment. The tribunal of God that Molay invoked is, in fact, the tribunal of collective human memory, and we have delivered the verdict he wanted. The gold is irrelevant. The power is irrelevant. All that matters is the story. And the story says the Templars were innocent. The story says the king was a monster. The story says that some betrayals are so profound they echo through time. The curse was a seed of narrative, and it has grown into a forest that now covers the entire history of the 14th century, shading all other events in its dark, compelling light. The final accounting shows a zero-sum game for material wealth, but an overwhelming victory for the Templars in the only currency that truly lasts: legacy. The king has his dusty chronicles in university libraries. The Templars have our imagination. They live in our books, our films, our video games, our secret societies, our ghost stories. They are more alive today than they were in 1307. That is the ultimate curse. Not death, not misfortune, not even a failed lineage. The ultimate curse is to be forever remembered as the villain in someone else's glorious, tragic story. The gold is gone, the king is gone, but the Templars are eternal. Checkmate. When all the gold is gone and the kings have turned to dust, what really remains? It's not a treasure chest, but something far more powerful: the echo of a choice and its consequences. King Philip the Fair seized the Templars' wealth, but history remembers him as a desperate, cruel man. His grand victory is just a footnote. Meanwhile, Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master, is remembered as a martyr. We've chosen our hero and our villain. The true curse of the Templars wasn't magic. It's the relentless weight of memory. It's our collective judgment across 7 centuries that such a betrayal cannot be forgotten. The Templar cross, a symbol of the destroyed, has outlived the fleur-de-lis, the symbol of the destroyer. By disappearing, their treasure became limitless, the ultimate fantasy of hidden wealth. The king wanted all the gold, but the Templars got all the stories. And in the economy of history, stories are the only currency that never loses its value. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that defy time.